And we are live. It's Tuesday, time for our testimonial. I hope you are all enjoying this group. Remember to look at the units section so you can see all sorts of testimonials. Patti has a testimonial, written testimonial in there. And we're going to talk today about anxiety, stress, some digestive stuff, some panic attacks that Patti was experiencing. And this information is really, really valuable. So tag anyone that you've added to the group and feel free to bring some people into the group. We're welcoming everyone. We want everyone to be living healthier and happier lives. So Patti, thank you so much for being with me here today to share your story.
My pleasure.
Tell us what was happening with you and then what changed after you started really balancing the microbiome.
I was motivated by your daughter Carly's story last week. You know, it reminded me so much of my younger years, and a lot of people have heard me talk about it, but for those that have never met me, I'm Patti Sinclair, and I work as a spiritual professional for many, many years, so I'm deeply empathic. And I think that's an important thing to talk about, Dale, you know, because a lot of people are very sensitive. There's actually a psychiatric analysis now that they're using called an HSP, which stands for a highly sensitive person. And before that, they weren't really giving that any credence. The psychiatric community wasn't really honoring the depth of the way an empathic person responds to noises and things that people say to them and their surroundings, whether they've slept well, what they're eating. You know, some people can charge through and they have a really strong constitution, but an HSP, a highly sensitive person, does not have a really strong constitution. So we need our rest. We need quiet time. We need gentle atmospheres. It's not to say you can't go to a concert and have a blast, but I digress because a lot of people don't honor that if you are an anxiety disorder or a panic attack sufferer, and I briefly want to touch on that, if it's okay, Dale, that they're very different. Generalized anxiety disorder, better known as GAD, is when you're a person who's almost always feeling a little on edge, like your mind is racing. You sit down and you might be a foot tapper, or your hands are always moving. Your mind doesn't seem to settle. You don't rest well. General anxiety disorder is brutal on your adrenal function. Your hormone imbalance gets way off, and it's just a state of constant stress, which is not good, as we know, for the body or the mind. Anxiety attacks are more of a neurotransmitter release, as you and I both know now, that starts in our gut and doesn't provide the proper hormone, serotonin, dopamine levels to the brain to calm the fight or flight response. So you could just be sitting somewhere like Carly was talking about on a date, having a nice time, and out of nowhere, she feels like crap and she's scared and she's thinking, oh my gosh, this is going to unreel my day. Now, if that happens when you're behind the wheel of a car in heavy traffic, or you're, you know, at work and presenting something, or I used to be a caterer. It happened to me several times when I was at work, like at the stove. It can be really dangerous, right? Wow. And so a panic attack, an anxiety attack, is very different than generalized anxiety disorder. But Dale, both of these things are initiated in our microbiome, which is that whole colony of bacteria in the gut, you know, the colon, the small and large intestine, the stomach, where we're looking for all of these healthy bacteria that we were born to create in the belly. We were born to have this healthy bacterial state. And with the way things are now, Dale, we don't eat right. We might be putting too much caffeine on board, too much booze on board. We're not sleeping enough. We've got constant stress from social media and other, you know, dedications that we have that we didn't have a long time ago, right? So I'm trying to do this all in one breath, but I do want to tell you something that tags along to this that I think the listener is going to find exciting, or at least interesting. I went to see a naturopathic doctor do a talk a couple of years ago, and she said that 100 years ago, the average woman made 8 decisions a day. And now in 2018, when I went to see her, she said the average woman makes 8 decisions the first 30 minutes she's awake. Wow. And so the point was, it's the exact same brain. It's the exact same neurotransmitter connection function. And the decisions, you know, the listener might be like, 8 decisions in the first half hour. It might be like, am I going to make the bed? Am I going to open the shades? Am I going to have coffee or walk the dog first? You know, it might be simple stuff that's not, but the women 100 years ago, they knew they were getting up, making the coffee. They knew what they were going to wear. They knew what they, you know, like, and I don't, this is not an, you know, it's not an anti-feminist thing. This is about our brains are not built to do what we're asking them to do. So if we don't get this system that's in place for us in our gut on track, we're going down a rabbit hole. And I was going down that rabbit hole since I was 14 years old when I had my first very serious panic attack because I had a very, I had a sister that was very ill, and our family kind of went from, you know, everything running very smoothly. I'm the youngest of 5 children, amazing parents. And then my sister got sick, and it was a trauma. And I reacted because of my empathy. I reacted with panic. And I, at the same time, which we're going to find interesting, is that I also was continually coming down with a strep throat almost every 10 to 13 months. And very significant protocols of back then penicillin and then amoxicillin, right? Those big nasty pills that would make your stomach so upset. And my anxiety continued to climb after I started with the strep infections. So then, you know, nobody knew. Nobody was talking probiotics or anything then. But Dale, fast forward all the way until when I was introduced to this protocol, it was because another sister was healing from an aggressive cancer, and her gut had been pretty much destroyed by her protocol of radiation and chemo. She found this product line that is all about helping to heal the microbiome, and in so doing, helping to heal our mental health, which really is our physical health, right? And I was skeptical because, Dale, I had tried every diet, every juice, every over-the-counter thing. I had tried RX medications, yoga, meditation, Reiki, acupuncture. They would help, but then they would go. It wasn't anything that was consistent. After 45 days of using this particular protocol, which was 3 products that I was using, a powder and a few capsules, I was waking up and realizing I hadn't gotten up in the middle of the night. Or if I had gotten up, it was once, and I would just go right back to sleep to the point where I didn't even remember getting up. And then all of a sudden, when I would hit these spaces in my life that would normally cause me this generalized anxiety disorder to pop up or an anxiety attack, I was handling it. I mean, it was like a labor pain, Dale. It was like the anxiety would come and it would sit right here, and I go, oh crap, here it comes. And then it would go back down. And then it got to the point about 90 days in that I wasn't even experiencing the crescendo. Really tough stuff was coming my way. Like, you and I are good friends, and so you know that this past year has delivered me some tough stuff. So really tough stuff was coming my way, and I was handling it, you know, and I thought, and not to mention, I became a borderline irritable bowel syndrome sufferer, severe leaky gut, borderline IBS, and I'm happy to tell you now, I'm never worried about going out and having cramps. The whole system of my colon is working as it should, which is crucial for us, no matter what age. I feel like I'm just like throwing so much out here, but honestly, Dale, you know, you and I just spent some time out in California together, and I really would stand on a rooftop with a megaphone if I could to tell people you don't have to suffer. We have a solution. And I mean that we've been gifted this, Dale. It is nothing short of a miracle to me. And yet the bottom line is it's not anything woo-woo. This is science, and the clinical studies are in. You and I know that we're studying with some of the best doctors in the field, chief among them, Dr. Emmer Mayer, the king of the gut-brain connection. I honestly can't stop smiling when I talk about this, because I sat and prayed for this, Dale. I prayed for a solution and an answer, and this easy protocol has been my answer, and we're out there to let everybody know.
Wow. So what an incredible story and transformation with just getting to the foundation, the core, the gut, the microbiome, getting that in balance, and all the things that happen, like on an emotional level, on a physical level, like just amazing. Like people just don't understand that such an intimate connection between the gut and the brain. And so, like you, I'm like, want to shout this from the mountaintops, because what we're seeing is people that are having anxiety, they're having panic attacks, they're not sleeping, and they go to their doctor, and the doctor says, he has a prescription for you. I mean, that's the only answer that they have. And what I've seen is when you look at the side effects of those prescriptions, it's pretty darn scary. And people don't even feel that much better. They're just like flatlined. So,
and Dale, I wanted to say, because again, I'm going back to your daughter, Carly, who shared her story of anxiety attacks. And I could feel her wanting so desperately in the interview to really express what she was suffering, like when it happened.
Yes.
And I have to tell you, if you've never had a panic attack, you cannot know how horrible it feels, because most people take it for granted that it's a mind thing, and a lot of well-meaning people will say, just calm down, take a deep breath, it's fine, you're going to be fine, which is, it's all okay advice, but you can't take a deep breath when you're suffering. And in the middle of the attack, you have to remember, this is a Neanderthal process, right? That the brain is using to protect us. The only thing is, in the old days, there actually was a mountain lion behind you that you had to run from. Now you're sitting with your boyfriend, you're out to dinner with your friends, you're on the couch watching a movie, and all of a sudden, for whatever reason, your gut is not in balance, your neurotransmitter function is off, and you start to have this attack out of nowhere. It's not anything different than an asthma attack sufferer who inhales somebody's makeup and all of a sudden they can't breathe, or anything that someone suffers, right, where they think you don't understand it. Anxiety attacks are debilitating, they're frightening, they're embarrassing, which is awful, because there aren't a lot of physical things that we can go through where you're really debilitated physically. And if you fell and you got hurt and your knee was bleeding and you scratched your hands, people would come and they would help you and you wouldn't feel bad about it. You might be a little embarrassed that you fell, but you'd accept their help and you'd put ice and you'd get a bandage. When you're having an anxiety attack, you're humiliated because you can't figure out what is going on right now. And if I tell anyone, are they going to think I'm nuts? Are they going to not? They're going to think I'm a hot, dramatic mess. For most kids, it starts at the hormonal levels between 11 and 15. So they don't have the wheelhouse of skills, right, to say what they're going through. And then when you get to be our age, or even as a young mother, I can remember thinking, I should be over this. This is embarrassing still, And what I've learned through the work that we're doing with the company that we've partnered with is that I no longer claim that I am embarrassed or that I have any need to be embarrassed. This is really a Neanderthal process in the brain. The only thing is, like I said, in the old days, there was a mountain lion behind you. You had to hightail it out of there. And in the old days, they had a much healthier microbiome because they weren't eating things that were processed. They weren't putting caffeine and booze on board. They weren't eating sugars the way we do today. And they didn't have the stresses that we have today. So they could balance themselves, And so I think what we're doing is not only approaching this through a supplement protocol, which is easy, but we're also doing this beautiful holistic approach of honoring the mind and honoring the process of meditation and physical activity and holistic foods, getting back to a whole diet. And we really do have to get back to that space where we're going to cheat. We're going out for gelato in California. We're going to do the things every once in a while. But for the most part, Dale, what I did was I really cleaned up everything that I was doing in my life that I thought was okay. And if you're as serious an anxiety disorder sufferer as I was, and I don't mean to be dramatic, but it was unraveling my life in ways that, you know, I took all processed sugars out of my diet for 4 months. I decided to take booze out of my diet. I love my Chardonnay, and I've took it out completely, almost 2 years. You know, if you are an anxiety disorder sufferer and you're pouring booze or sugar on top of it, it's absolutely like kerosene on a fire. I mean, it is that thing that destabilizes, again, our gut, right? And interrupts your sleep, and are depressants. Both alcohol and sugar are depressants, right? So luckily I'm not a coffee drinker. I didn't have to let go of that. I still have my Earl Grey every morning. But I think what is the most important thing that I want to tell anyone that's listening today is that you're not alone. We have an amazing community of really empathic and great listeners. We're here to answer your questions and to help you figure out what's best for you and what's right for you, so that you can start living the life that I know you and I, Dale, believe that we were all meant to live, which is joyful and healthy. Life is hard, you know, and we have to get these things in place as best we can, because it's trickier, and I don't foresee it getting any easier. Life will always throw things at us, you know, but I think you and I both have this resilience now. Yeah. You know, we have a resilience we didn't used to have.
Yeah.
It's exciting, man.
It is. That's the word. That's the word, is stress resilience.
Mm-hmm.
That is it for sure. It's like building a muscle. And
yes,
but it's in the gut that we're doing that. So that's the place to start. Wow. 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 What an incredible message, Patti. Thank you so much for sharing. I learned some more things about you. You're amazing. Wow. You're passionate and you have like this light around you. Unbelievable.
That's all my angel work for 18 years.
That's
all this angel work around me.
Oh my gosh, it's incredible. So I love the last message, like, you deserve this. You deserve to live. You don't have to be struggling. We have tools and things that can help. So thank you again, Patti. You're the best. Mwah.
Yay, love you so much.
All right. Thanks so much for being with me today.
Bye, everybody.